We've all heard of the Iron Maiden, a terrifying metal coffin lined with spikes. But what if it was never actually used? In this video, we're going way back before medieval Europe, to civilizations that truly practiced ritual torture. From the Aztecs, who offered beating hearts to their gods, to the Maya, who used bloodletting to connect with the spirit world, and the Mesopotamians, who carved cruel punishments into stone. These weren't just acts of violence. They were beliefs, traditions, laws. This is the real story of ancient torture, strange, sacred, and unforgettable. Section 1. The sacred nature of pain in the dense green jungle of what is now Guatemala, Belize, and parts of Mexico and Honduras. The ancient Maya civilization thrived for over 2,000 years. Towering stone pyramids jutted above the treetops. Cities like Tikal, Copan, and Palenque echoed with the voices of kings, priests, astronomers, and farmers. But among the Mayas' many rituals, calendar readings, ancestor worship, and offerings to the gods, one ceremony stood out for its intimacy, its intensity, and its sheer endurance across time. Bloodletting. To modern eyes, the idea of slicing one's own body open as a religious rite might seem barbaric or brutal. Yet for the Maya, blood was the ultimate gift, a sacred substance, believed to contain Chulul, the vital life force that connected humans to the divine. Bloodletting was not just pain for the sake of devotion. It was a spiritual transaction, a communication line to the gods, from kings to commoners. Bloodletting was central to Mayan identity. In a world where the cosmos was fragile and needed constant maintenance through ritual acts, offering blood was a way to restore harmony, ensure agricultural fertility, and receive divine visions. Where we might write prayers or light candles, the Maya drew their own blood, and they did so with meticulous ceremony. Ritual bloodletting often took place in dark, incense-filled rooms, or atop temple platforms, under the gaze of ancestors whose images were carved into limestone stelae. Participants would pierce their tongues, ears, lips, and even genitals using obsidian blades, stingray spines, bone needles, or thorny ropes. The blood would be collected on paper and burned, sending smoke skyward and offering the gods could smell, perhaps even taste. But the act was not always private. Sometimes it was public spectacle. Imagine the ruler of Yaxchilin in the 8th century, clad in jaguar skins and jade jewelry, standing before a gathered crowd. His wife, Lady Kaab al-Zuk, stands beside him. A priest hands her rope studded with obsidian shards. Calmly, with practiced reverence, she threads the barbed rope through her tongue, letting her blood fall onto a bark paper cloth. She winces, but remains composed. The blood-soaked paper is then burned, and the rising smoke becomes a pathway to the otherworld. Such scenes are depicted in Mayan carvings, like the famous lintel from Yaxchilin Structure 23. These are not moments of agony for agony's sake. They are moments of transcendence. Section 2. Blood as cosmic current. To fully understand Mayan bloodletting, we must understand their cosmology, a universe with multiple layers, sacred directions, and an ever-turning cycle of creation, destruction, and rebirth. The Maya believed the gods had sacrificed their own blood to form the world, and that humanity owed a debt in kind. According to the Popolva, the Mayan sacred book of creation, the gods made several attempts to craft humans. First, from mud, then wood. These early creations failed. Only when humans were made from Mesa's sacred plant and central to Mayan life did the gods consider their work successful. But even then, a bargain was implied. To live, humans must offer thanks, and that thanks came in blood. Unlike the Aztecs, who emphasized large-scale human sacrifice atop pyramids, the Maya practiced smaller, more personal offerings. Rituals might be tied to events like royal ascensions, droughts, or eclipses when the veil between the human and divine was thinnest. Elite rulers were expected to perform bloodletting at key calendar dates, especially at the beginning of new Bactans for 100-year periods or Catans, 20-year cycles. These ceremonies were carefully timed with astronomical events. Recorded in stone carvings and codices, royal bloodletting affirmed the ruler's divine right and their ability to speak to the gods. Their pain was the kingdom's protection. But this wasn't limited to men. Elite women, particularly royal wives, were central to these rituals. By bleeding for the gods, they honored both their divine lineage and their roles as mediators between the mortal and spiritual worlds. Commoners, too, participated especially during agricultural festivals or communal rites. Before planting, a farmer might pierce his ear or thigh and let his blood drip into the soil, nourishing the earth that would in turn nourish him. It was a loop of giving and receiving, bound by the sacred nature of life's red river. Interestingly, the tools of bloodletting were themselves ritual items. Stingray spines were collected and stored in elaborate containers. Obsidian blades so sharp they could cut skin with the gentlest pressure were placed in altars, buried in graves, or passed down as heirlooms. Pain was never wasted. Every drop meant something. Section 3. Visions, hallucinations, and portals to the other world. But bloodletting was not just symbolic. The physical act had a profound psychological dimension, combined with fasting, chanting, incense, and hallucinogenic substances. It often induced altered states of consciousness. The Maya believed bloodletting could open portals to the Zybolba, the underworld, or allow visions of ancestral spirits, deities, or supernatural creatures. In the Yaxchilin lintel carving, smoke rises from Lady Zook's blood-soaked paper, forming a serpent. From its open jaws emerges a warrior or god, a manifestation of her vision. These were not metaphorical images. To the Maya, such visions were real and vital messages. Modern scholars suggest these hallucinations were caused not just by the blood loss, but also by the intense rituals surrounding the event. Prolonged fasting, the burning of copal resin, rhythmic drumming, and even ingestion of substances like tobacco or morning glory seeds all contributed to an environment that bent the senses. Participants described seeing ancestors, gods with animal features, or abstract patterns. The experience could be ecstatic or terrifying, but it was always sacred. One of the most fascinating aspects is how these visions guided political decisions. A ruler might bloodlet and then declare, based On their vision that a war should begin, a monument should be built, or a festival should be held. In this way, bloodletting was not passive devotion, it was active governance. It also legitimized power. When a ruler claimed divine visions after a bloodletting rite, he didn't just impress the gods, he impressed his people. The pain was proof of piety, and the vision was proof of favor. Even death, in this context, wasn't an ending, it was another offering. Some priests or captives bled themselves until unconsciousness or even death. Though rare, these ultimate sacrifices were considered acts of divine unity. Section 4. From sacred to forgetinas, the centuries passed. Mayan civilization faced waves of collapse, environmental strain, warfare, and eventually Spanish colonization. With the arrival of Catholicism in the 16th century, many native practices were labeled heretical or savage. Bloodletting, once a sacred rite, was now a sign of backwardness to European eyes. The Spanish chroniclers, shocked by what they saw, destroyed codices and temple carvings. Much of what we know about Mayan rituals comes from the few surviving texts and the archaeological record lintels, stelae, murals, and burial sites dot, and yet echoes remain. In some indigenous communities in Guatemala and Chiapas, fragments of the old practices survive in modern forms: symbolic piercing, ritual fasting, even the burning of offerings with prayers. Though the blood may no longer flow, the spiritual impulse persists. Archaeologists today continue to uncover ritual caches, bundles buried beneath pyramids or altars, filled with bloodletting tools. They find stingray spines wrapped in cloth, obsidian blades nestled beside shells and bones. These were not discarded tools, but sacred artifacts, laid to rest with reverence. What's remarkable is the consistency across time. From 300 BCE to 900 CE and beyond, bloodletting remained at the core of Mayan religious life. Despite political upheaval, drought, and warfare, the red thread of ritual pain endured. It was never about cruelty. It was about connection and inner world, where every sunrise was a divine favor, every maize harvest a gift from the gods. Offering a drop of one's own blood made sense. Pain was a pathway, suffering was sacred.